What to make of the first two games of the Four Nations Faceoff and the possibility of Thomas Harley joining Team Canada. We'll discuss it all next on Locked On Stars.
You're Locked On Stars, your daily podcast on the Dallas Stars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, Stars fans. I'm Joey Erickson, former producer of 105 Through the Fan. Please be sure to subscribe. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. And as always, thank you so much for making us a part of your day and making us your first listen. I'm recording after a 6-1 demolition of Team Finland by Team USA on this Thursday night to kick off their Four Nations Faceoff Tournament. We're going to discuss everything Four Nations and the possibility of Thomas Harley joining Team Canada later this week. A lot to get into on today's episode of Locked On Stars. Be sure to hit that notification bell, never miss an episode, and let me know down in the comment section how you're feeling about the Four Nations Faceoff. I have so many takes, so many opinions on what's transpired the last couple of days. So we're going to begin here with just my overall take on the Four Nations Faceoff. It is a resounding success by the NHL. They've completely knocked this out of the park. I love it. I love it. I love it. I can't say it enough. And I know there are some people that are on the other side of the spectrum because this tournament is meaningless. I put that in quotations, and I mean this as respectfully as possible. You're an absolute buzzkill, and you don't like the game of hockey if you don't enjoy this tournament. Simple as that. You're being a buzzkill. Don't be the lame guy at the party. This is awesome. This is exhilarating. And we got it on night one between Team Canada and Team Sweden. Just terrific stuff all the way around. It is okay that these players care about this tournament, whether it's meaningless or not. In the grand scheme of things, correct. It's an exhibition. Who gives an absolute rip? Who gives a rip? The All-Star game has been a snooze fest for the last decade. Can't remember a single moment that was fun or thrilling. The only time I remember anything from an All-Star game was when I was 8. It's an absolute snooze fest. And yes, it's right smack dab in the middle of the season, and we're worried about injuries. I completely understand. And yes, I'd probably be really irritated if one of the Stars players got hurt. But man, these players, they care. I love seeing the Tkachuk brothers care about playing in this tournament. I like seeing Mitch Marner care. I like seeing McDavid and Crosby care playing for their country. It's nice that these NHL players care about something other than just playing for their team, right? Whether that's the Penguins or Oilers, they actually care about an event. We get on these guys for not caring, and they're just so bleh, and they're meh, and their personalities, and the NHL doesn't promote them enough. Well, they found something that it looks like they care, and I want my players and the best in the world to care about it as much as I do. Like I want Team USA to win the darn thing, whether it's meaningless or not. And it's nice to feel like, oh yeah, like the Tkachuk brothers, they want to win it just as much as I do. I want bragging rights against Canada. Like, hell yeah. I think it's so fun. And in the day and age where there's just so much to watch, this is a great thing for the NHL to have an event, just to have an event. They've talked about how the numbers are down in the viewing because, the 82 game regular season could just be a bit of a slog. You need urgency. This tournament provides urgency. It's a week and a half, and you have to buck up if you want to try to win the darn thing. And yeah, maybe it doesn't matter to some of the other big countries like the US or Canada, but you can't tell me Finland and Sweden don't care. It is big. It is big. And I know there are some other people that side on the other side of the fence. And again, no disrespect. Don't be a buzzkill. This is awesome. This is great for the league. And don't get me wrong. I hate to see injuries, and I don't want to see that, but that's a part of the game. Guys get injured in practice. Guys can get injured all the time. I would rather them play in something they care about, and they're putting their body on the line because they like pulling over, USA over their chest and feeling that responsibility. And okay, it's meaningless. Again, who gives a rip? I like to watch McKinnon, McDavid, and Crosby spend 8 out of the 10 minutes at 3-on-3 overtime. That's what I want to watch. That's what the heck I want to watch, because I love the game. I love the game so much, and this is a home run, in my opinion. I think it's a home run, and it's smart that the NHL is doing this. Get away from the All-Star game. Nobody wants to be there anyways. None of the guys want to be there. That may be an unfair statement. Let's say 10% want to be there. We saw the Kucherov thing last year. And I love it. I think it's exactly what the game needs. This is how you grow the game. Getting to watch fantasy hockey. Like, we get to watch just the best guys in the world team up. And we got to see it tonight where Team USA, after 2 periods, sort of figured it out. Finland played hard and tried to stay in it. And then the USA talent just took over and completely dominated the third period. The Tkachuk brothers were awesome. I told y'all before the tournament kicked off, Boldy can be a problem. What a goal he scored off that deflection by Brock Faber, and a massive 4-goal third period from Team USA to take down Finland, who really struggled in that third. But they played hard. I mean, credit to the Finns to kind of hang in there for the first 2 periods. They took a lead early, and they gave the U.S. A run for their money. Lindell had a great night. For Team Finland, as we can kind of bring this back to a Dallas Stars perspective, I think Lindell's going to play a lot of minutes. He played 24 and a half. So he was on the ice for all 4 goals. He played a lot on the PK. He played just under 4 minutes. He's going to log a lot of ice time with Team Finland. And I mentioned it too, the loss of Miro really hurts. It's probably a bigger loss to Team Finland than it is the Dallas Stars at this point in time. So Lindell had his night pretty locked and loaded and had to play a lot of minutes. Mikael Grandund, I thought, had a really strong evening for Team Finland as well. He picked up an assist on the lone goal for Finland. Thought he had a strong night. Actually, probably one of the better performances from a forward in the game. Finland's just going to need a lot more out of some of their big boys. Roope Hintz had some looks. He actually ended up with 6 shots. He was on the ice for 6 shots, only 2 against. So, and he ended up with 5 scoring chances on the night. Grandund ended up with 9, which was the most of anybody on Team Finland. I thought Grandund was all over the rink. He was making some plays and making some things happen. The other reason I do like this tournament as well is to see some of the trade deadline possibilities in action. So we got to look at Armia, who I brought up in an episode a few days ago. Armia, I like his sort of game. He's a little rough around the edges, and he's a big boy. The Jokiharju, he better be careful if he keeps this up for the rest of the tournament. He'll be a Dallas Star soon. Jim Nill would love to add another Finn to the lineup. He was brilliant in the game, and he's one of those players that I feel like when the Stars play Buffalo, you notice him, but he probably gets glossed over because of Dahlin and Owen Power. But Jokiharju was out there flying around, and of course he ended up with the lone goal for Team Finland. But I'm just thinking to myself, you better be careful. It's gonna end up in victory green if he keeps this up. So thought he had a really strong night. Roope, I thought he had some moments, but it looked like he didn't have his legs either. It just looked a step slow, and he's played a lot of hockey, and he has some of those nights where he's just not on it. And look, every team's just kind of throwing some trios together, and they're trying to figure it out. But he had that odd man rush with Aho, and they weren't able to connect on the 2-on-1. But US it was too good, and you can see it on paper, and it just took a couple of periods until Team USA could really turn it on, and Saros didn't have the best night in net. The kickoff to the tournament was spectacular with Canada, Sweden. I told you too, Sweden's going to be it's going to be a tough out. They have some players, obviously. Outside of the first period where Canada just dominated, they didn't even need Bennington. I don't think Sweden registered their first shot until 15 minutes into the first period. But after that, they were able to claw their way back. And God, they probably should have won in OT. They had some great looks. I can't remember who exactly it was when Makar had his stick broken in the 3-on-3 overtime. And they had the backdoor play set up. Bennington made a great save. Gustafsson was great in net for Team Sweden as well. Love the 3-on-3 10-minute too. I think the NHL should sort of adopt that because they played 7 minutes, and it gives you an opportunity for some more of those moments. Like there were some huge saves, some gigantic saves in that 3-on-3 period, and McKinnon going downhill. I mean, God, he never came off the ice. McDavid never came off the ice either. It felt like, along with Makar. And it was just both teams throwing haymakers. Really, really enjoyed that opener. And I think just a massive success and a great way to kick off the tournament. Now you have here on Saturday, like these are the rivalry games, Sweden, Finland, and then US, Canada, which is going to be an absolute bonkers contest in Montreal on Saturday night. So I love it so much. And again, I think it's a huge success. And yeah, it's somewhat meaningless, but who gives a rip? I like my players to care. We're sort of an event-based society to some degree. We like the big events. Regular seasons are tough. Look what the NBA's tried to do with the NBA Cup and things of that nature. You've got to have some standalone events throughout the schedule. And this is one of them for the NHL. I think it's great. And if you don't like it, no disrespect again, think you're a buzzkill and you just don't want to have fun. And I understand that you're worried about your team, and don't get me wrong, I am too. I love the Dallas Stars as much as the next guy. And I know that it can put your team in a tough situation if some guys go down, but it's hockey. Like, it's a physical game. You can get hurt anytime. And I like to watch the best in the world go at it, because we don't get it enough. The NHL does not have this on a nightly basis. You don't get this every night. So there we go. That's sort of my take. Let's talk about Thomas Harley, though, who may be joining Team Canada. So another Dallas Star may be inserted into the action. We'll do that in just a moment. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by Wonderful Pistachios. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios, one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for your unsaturated fats to help keep that filling fuller longer. Get snacking and get cracking with a snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Pistachios are a wonderful snack. I grew up on Pistachios. Me and my father be cracking those suckers and just going to town, going through an entire bag in about 2 hours. They're great at ball games too. You can go to, a Ranger game over the summer. Spring training is right around the corner. Get you some Pistachios when you're down in Surprise watching the Texas Rangers. Get snacking, get cracking with a snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Well, Thomas Harley may join Team Canada in Canada's game against Sweden a couple of days ago. Shea Theodore had left with an upper body injury, and the feeling is he's going to be out the rest of the tournament, which is a bit of a big blow. The good news is Team Harley does have somebody probably fighting for him inside, and that is Pete DeBoer, who, of course, is an assistant coach. From what it sounds like, Harley was actually a really, really close case to making Team Canada off the rip, even as a replacement for Pietrangelo. Let's say if Doughty wasn't able to go, but I hear that he's traveling. It's been reported that he's going to travel to Boston and be on standby as a possible replacement, which I think would be a lot of fun. And he's earned it too. He's obviously a heck of an offensive threat, and would love to see the Stars' now best defenseman, currently healthy, getting into some action. Although Esa Lindell has a good case for that too. He looked good, made a couple of great plays. Unfortunately, oh man, Finland is really thin on the back end. They don't have a lot of help, but it would be awesome to see Harley sort of join Team Canada and get things going there for the Maple Leaf. Man, I keep seeing on Twitter the Johnny Gaudreau jersey up in the stall. Every time you look at it, it makes you want to tear up. I almost get choked up looking at it every time, just because of what he meant to the game and Team USA hockey in general. There'd be no doubt he'd be a part of this team, and it's just another great wrinkle sort of into things, and a wrinkle's probably a terrible way to put it, but just another added motivation piece for Team USA, for them to go out and get the job done. We didn't get to see Jake Oettinger. Thought maybe get some garbage time there late in the third. He was on the broadcast as he was standing next to Ray Ferraro, so he did get some airtime. But I'm curious if we'll see Otter at any point. I will say, if it's one player I'm not going to be worried about if he doesn't play a lot in this tournament, it's going to be Jake Oettinger. I don't mind if he just sits back, can enjoy the games from the bench. Let Hellenbuck take all the reps he wants. Let him take all the shots. If it's one player I really do want to just be well rested, is Jake Oettinger. He's going to be leaned on very heavily by the Dallas Stars here in the next few months. So if he doesn't get a game, I'm not going to be rattled. It'll be interesting to see how they use him, because let's say US beats Canada on Saturday, he probably gets to start against Sweden, because I think US would pretty much be in the driver's seat to make the final if they beat Canada, because they'd have 4 points, and they are 6 points, excuse me, because it's 3 points for a win. So I think they would almost be a lock for the final if they beat Canada on Saturday night, just because of the OT game with Sweden and Canada. So you may get to see Otter in a game against Sweden, depending on the outcome of the outcome of Saturday's contest. There's a lot of interesting kind of wrinkles in the tournament as a whole. I've heard a lot of push for sort of the 3-2-1 system, sort of like the English football system, which I totally get, because it weighs wins a lot more. Like wins in regulation, it kind of gives you something extra. And we talk about the OT loss all the time. Like you want to lose with grace in the NHL by picking up points and just sort of losing in overtime. But it really encourages you to win in regulation when you give 3 points for a win. So this is also an opportunity for the NHL to just sort of work in some different things. I think at some point the 10-minute overtime is going to come at 3-on-3. I've always said I think you can cut the ice in half at one point, or once you enter inside the attacking zone, you got to stay there. You don't need to do a bunch of regroup or cut the ice in half. Like once you pass the red line, you don't need to keep curling back and forth. Like stay in the half of your end once you cross the red line. I think that would work too, just to have some games in more in overtime. And I know statistically games are actually ending in 3-on-3 OT more than they have in years past, which is a good sign because you sort of want to try to make the shootout obsolete. It's good it's there. I mean, I still like the shootout. There's going to be some times where teams just can't figure it out in the 3-on-3. So I like the idea. You don't have a tie, like figure out a winner, but you only get maybe you get the 2 points for the win in OT, but you get 3 for a win in regulation. Then it encourages some teams to push, especially when you get those sort of East versus West games and it's tied with like 4 or 5 minutes to go. And you can just feel the teams kind of almost psychologically or telepathically through one another's brains saying, okay, like we can get a point out of this. Let's just sort of hang out for the last 5 minutes and get this game to overtime. And then we'll kind of go from there. So it would encourage some teams, I think, to push a bit more, which is not a bad thing. So yeah, I loved it. I think it's great stuff in the first 2 games. I'm ticked off. I won't be able to watch Canada US live since I'll be doing a game myself, but I'll definitely be keeping an eye on it. And we'll be taking in the highlights later. So that'll be a ton of fun. As I said, it's nice to see some players too that may be on the trading block. And this is probably a great tournament for some GMs to go to and hang out in the press box, and you get a look at some guys that maybe you're trying to make a deal for here post 4 Nations and sign some of these guys like Jokiharju. I thought had a good night. Armia's an interesting player too, who currently plays on Montreal. So there's some guys that probably going to be making some hay for themselves, put on a little tryout for some GMs across the NHL. So great stuff in general. Alrighty, let's wrap it up here on a Thursday night. We'll sort of give some final conclusions on some stuff, and we'll discuss some other things happening in the world of hockey. We'll do that in just a moment. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by Factor. Looking to optimize your nutrition this year, Factor makes eating well easy with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved meals that are fresh, never frozen, and ready to heat and eat in just 2 minutes. With 40 options across 8 dietary preferences every week, you can customize your meals to fit your lifestyle. Whether it's Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, or Keto, plus Factor even offers wholesome smoothies, breakfasts, and grab-and-go snacks to keep you fueled all day long. We have such busy schedules nowadays. You're trying to run errands, you're taking care of kids, you're taking care of your loved ones, and you're trying to work and fit in healthy meals as well throughout your day. It can be so tough, and it's so easy, of course, to go through the drive-thru. Factor takes all that out of question because they give you meals. It's set. You can plan your day. You can plan your week, and you can just pop them in the microwave at work. You can have them, and you get a nutritious meal, and you stay fuel and you stay full so you don't have to snack throughout the day. Eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/LockedOnNHL50 off and use code LockedOnNHL50 off to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's code LockedOnNHL50 off at factormeals.com/LockedOnNHL50 off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. Time for your take-home segment here on a Thursday edition of Locked On Stars. I appreciate all the wonderful feedback on the trade deadline extravaganza episode as well. Loved reading through your comments and some of the different players that y'all have on your mind for the Dallas Stars to go ahead and grab. And I'm looking forward to see what Jim Nill and the Dallas Stars are able to muster up here in a few weeks. I think you have to like where the Stars are at. It was nice to see Esa Lindell get some power play time with Team Finland as well, and I was hoping Finland would cash in a couple power play goals with Esa on the ice, and we could come on here and say, you know what, the secret weapon Dallas always had for their power play was Esa Lindell. Who knew that Lindell needs some more power play time? That was always the answer. Maybe they need to get Esa on the back end a bit more, which we're going to see a skosh more too, with of course the injury to Miro here in the next few weeks. But of course, Harley's going to take over a lot of those minutes. Esa's such a pure defender. It's one of the things I really took out of the game too. And again, I know the stat line wasn't great. He was on the ice for all 4 goals for Finland, but or 4 of the 6. He's so stout. Gosh, he's just so good. And you watch him go up against Eichel and the Kachucks and Matthews, and there's just a couple of plays with his stick and the way he angles off forwards. He's so aware. His IQ is brilliant. And it got me thinking too, because he extended his contract. What was it, 4 or 5 years over the summer, right before the season started. And I remember really liking it. And I remember my take was he's stable, he's consistent. You know what you're going to get out of Lindell. And I remember I put in sort of a caveat that, as he ages, maybe it won't look as good. Just that's an idiotic statement for me. Lindell's perfect. He's worth his weight in gold. Pay him whatever. You need players like that. He's just a defensive anchor. And we all know what he does on the PK. In the minutes he just chews up. He's so smart, and he's only I think he's only going to sort of get better with age, just because he's so wise. And he's never been an elite skater, but that's never mattered. And that's the beauty of his game. He's never been a Miro, never really been a Harley, or even a Klingberg for that matter, but he knows where to be. He understands angles. He understands D-zone structure and where to be at all times. And he just mops up a lot, and he cleans up a lot of mistakes. That was one of my big takeaways from the game. Although Finland had a rough go of it on the back end, like Lindell's such a pure defender. And he's so perfect. And the Stars are lucky to have somebody like that. And Otter has been throwing out there recently in some interviews that he's the best defensive defenseman in the world. And you're like, okay, maybe that's a bit, hasty to some degree. It's not. I think he's within the top 4, top 3. You could put maybe Forsling in there, who's a fellow Finn. I believe, or Forsling with Sweden. I could be off my rocker on that one. Forsling's he's Swedish, excuse me, but Forsling's pretty good too for Florida. But Lindell's right up there. He really is. And I think he's going to get a lot of love throughout this tournament. I think his stock's really going to raise. And thought he had a really good night, even at 5-on-5. You look at 5-on-5, gave 2 goals, and played a ton of minutes. He logged over 24. So always nice to show some love to Lindell. We probably don't show him enough. I need to show him some more love on the podcast on a regular basis, but he's just one of those guys that sort of does his job and you don't have to worry about. And that's what makes a great defender sometimes. You don't have to worry about him, and you don't have to bring him up all the time. We talked with Sam Nessler a week ago, right? He talked about Bischel sort of, you don't really bring him up a lot, and that's good for rookie. Just sort of does his job, doesn't stand out in a great way all the time, doesn't stand out in a bad way, and that's more important. So there we go. Locked on Esa Lindell here to wrap up this Thursday edition of Locked On Stars. Man, I'm so fired up watching these games, and I was so pumped to come on here and just talk about the opening 2 games of this tournament, because I think it's what the game needs. And for those that love hockey, it's awesome. And credit to the NHL. I think they sort of knocked this out of the park, and give the players some credit. Like they deserve some credit to sort of buy into this whole thing. Otherwise it could just be, because some people are calling it the glorified All-Star game. And that's fine. It's a much better glorified All-Star game. It's much better. Have you watched the last decade of the NHL All-Star game? Absolute garbage is what it is. So at least the fans get something out of this, like something positive. Finally, God forbid. All righty. Before I get too bitter, let's wrap this up. Thank you as always for love and support. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Let me know your take on the 4 Nations Faceoff. Maybe you completely disagree with me, and that's okay. But it's not at the same time. This is awesome. All righty. Appreciate it as always. Thank you for listening every single day. Shout out to all you everydayers out there. Enjoy your weekend. Going to be great as always. And of course, we'll see you on the next episode of Locked On Stars. So long, Stars fans.